Ladies and gentlemen, today we have the awesome and an amazing artist for our exclusive interview. It's actually LayZee, or you better know as Mr.President. Thank you for accepting this interview and thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's an honor for me to be here. Honored to be talking to you right now. Thanks.
Let's get started about going back a little bit of time. And I'm sure that many of the viewers will know that you are Mr. President, who did so many amazing tracks back in the 90s, including Up and Away, I Follow the Sun, I Give You My Heart, and of course the famous Coco Jumboo, which was released back in 1996. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's been a journey. Let's put it that way. It's been a hell of a journey, and I've enjoyed every single minute of it. It's been fantastic. It could only have happened due to the fans. That's all.
So my very first question will be, how this famous tracks has affected your artist career?
You know, it was really difficult to assess while we were on tour. Because we were constantly working. You know, we finished one track, we went on to the next, we finished an album, we went on the next tour. Every time we finished, we just went on tour and went on. So a lot of it was due to touring. And so we didn't realize how well we were doing until, you know, after. I mean, the success is affecting me kind of now. It didn't affect me then because we were too busy working. So it affects me. It's affecting me now, and it's like the impact that it had on different people from all over the world has been amazing. I never even knew that our record was in so many different countries.
That's pretty nice. I always love to hear how this famous tracks of different artists is inspired their career, because it's so interesting, you know, to tell the story and all of this, and it's pretty inspiring. My next question is, do you plan any follow-up, or if there is any follow-up for these famous tracks?
No, because we made these tracks in like in the 90s, and the music has moved on. Right, so to try and capture what was doesn't really make sense, right? So it's better if we kind of, or for me, it's better to constantly put out good music, right? But do not try to compete with yourself, because you've done it, you made it, you're up there, that's it, right? I'm not gonna make, nobody's going to make another Mr. President, another Coco Jumboo, or I Give You My Heart, or stuff like that. So it's always best to kind of be yourself, right? And continually make music that you personally like and hope that the fans are going to like.
That's true. I mean, I can totally understand from what perspective you are seeing, because when somebody is forced, for example, to do another track and another track, which sounds like the first one, it's probably you have a good success, or you're never going to touch the same success as the first track it was.
By doing that, I've seen it done many times. By doing that, you kind of ruin that first track, right? By making another one and another one and another one, sooner or later, people are just going to go, oh no, forget it. And you actually ruin the whole catalogue by just repeating the same thing all the time, because people don't think, they can't do anything else, so we'll leave it. And I think that's the success why we stood out for so long.
My next question will be connected to the future and the past together. So how do you think that has impacted the past of the music of today? I mean,
I've got kids, right, and they hear all the latest, all the new stuff, and they also listen to the 90s. And, the music of the 90s seemed to have a draw on a lot of generations. So the 90s must have made an impact. So, I do like the music of now. There are some really good, well-produced stuff, but they all don't have that special flair of the 90s. That, how can I say, happy-go-lucky. Everybody's too serious right now, right? Now it's beginning to come out in various genres, such as reggaeton and moubaton, that kind of style, that people are getting more into this, let's dance and have fun and be happy. And that's coming back again, which I absolutely adore. I've actually kind of hooked up with a few artists from different countries to collaborate with them on that kind of stuff, because I personally enjoy it.
Do you have any favorite artists from the current generation?
From the current generation, to be really honest, there's so many, I can't even latch onto one. I can't remember a single name. That's the problem that I see with nowadays music. You know, I ask my kids, who's that? And they just go, I don't know. You know, they know the tracks, and I say, yeah, what's that track? They'll tell me the name of it, but who's the artist? I don't know.
That's actually pretty cool. You know why? Because sometimes the people is like, when I'm asking them who's inspiring them, or if they have a favorite, it's so oversaturated today, scene with so many artists, and sometimes they just come and go. They have a good record and they disappear. And sometimes they have a couple of good records and they disappear completely.
Yeah, that's the situation today. I think it's mostly because of social media, right? You'll have tracks making it big on Instagram or Facebook, or people have heard it on Facebook. They go to YouTube, they hear it there, and then they download it or listen to it or stream it on Spotify. So the whole music world has changed. It's more interactive now. Things are living a shorter time instead of a longer time. And you know, I think it's an interesting trend, but I don't know if it's a great trend.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel just like how you said it, because as a music producer and a musician, I also feel that back in the days when somebody bought a vinyl, so when I bought a vinyl, I had something like physical, and I know that it was mine, and also I was able to give back to the artist. And nowadays, when you have only Spotify, that's actually so oversaturated, and you need such a lot of small things to promote your music, which is incredibly hard.
Right, and that's true, because you know, back in the day, you know, we had to work to make music. It wasn't not that simple. You know, there wasn't any such things as plugins and loop websites and stuff like that. So, you know, we had to make our own beats. We had to, you know, come up with our own chords. You know, work for that. You know, it was a craft. Nowadays, you can just download different elements, put it together, and you've got a track, right? And that's the reason why music doesn't have the sort of how can I say, the sort of worth that it had back then. Because like you said, you'd bought a vinyl or you buy a CD and you had something in your hand, and that gave music a lot of worth.
I just had a conversation with a couple of old generation of artists, and they told me that it was way harder. And I know, because I started back in 2002, and I know there was no YouTube, there was no internet back in the days to like go up and say, I'm searching for like, how can I do this effect? How can I do that preset? And finding all of this small information. And nowadays the kids has so much they can learn from YouTube or from Google or from all of this place, and it's so crazy.
Right, that's absolutely true. I mean, some of them don't even have the plugin does it for you, right? You know, I remember back in the day, time stretching, that was an act. That was really, you had to do so many things to get not just the vocal in time, but to keep it also in key. I mean, it took half an hour, literally half an hour. Today, you just stick it in, change your pitch, and that was it. And that's it.
It's crazy how much has changed. I mean, I personally still love the old school stuff, like the synths, for example. I'm a huge fan of the JP8000. I'm a huge fan of the old school stuff, because they have a certain sound. I mean, you can't really reproduce that with a plugin. No, you can't. You have that since the Juno, Nordly 2, whatever, you had to have that sound. And I mean, even in modern production, I still go into different studios, and I still see these things literally plugged in. So people prefer the analog to the plugins. That's absolutely true, because the analog still have something like a small extra or plus to the music, which just makes it a little bit more exciting. That's what I miss from the plugins, and even from the very top end plugins. It's crazy. So you are doing music for more than 30 years. That's actually really, really, really amazing. And I really respect someone who is doing so much for such a long time. How did you have the energy to still do this and go up on stage and produce music and go on? It's love. Let's say going on stage is adrenaline,
right? You know, I don't get excited. Before I go on stage, I get excited when I'm on stage. If I'm excited before, I'm just going to make mistakes. The crowd gives me a certain energy, and this energy I can give back, and it bounces. It's backwards and forwards. I'm pretty interactive with the crowd. I talk to them. I get them to participate. I'm more of an entertainer than a singer or a rap or whatever, right? And so crowd participation for me is the absolute must, right? So that's how I deal with the live aspect. How I deal with the creation aspect, that's something else. I work with different genres right now. Right now, I'm doing kind of lo-fi hip hop. I love hip hop. The idea of getting a fresh new sound and turning it into an old sound is a challenge for me. So you can say I live for the challenge, right? And that's how I keep the interest and keep the feeling. Always change.
I love hearing the people like getting inspired from the old school stuff, and also when I hear that they still doing this because of the love and not because of they want to make even the less drop their live performance and stuff like that.
I mean, for me, it's not about the success. I've already had that. I've done that. Been there, done that. It's not about the money. You know, money comes and go. It's the pure love. It's the excitement. It's like I say, again, it's always the challenge, right? It's always, can I do this? And how am I going to do this? Which is the most important. How am I going to do it, right? You know, I've been telling you about all these various plugins and blah, blah, blah. I don't use them. How would I go about it if I only had a mixing board and outboard stuff? How would I do it? And that's the challenge. And if I can do it like that, then yeah, I'd rather do it like that than, you know, something that's already pre-made.
And I totally understand you, because today you have so many synth plugins, for example, and sample packs, for example, and you download the sample pack, it has so much samples, you can produce an album from that sample pack. With one synth, you can do so many stuff. It's almost endless. For example, there is Nexus, which has so many presets and so many stuff that it's crazy. Like, you can't even have time to go through all the library and see like what do I even want?
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and all the machine genres that you can buy these presets for and sounds. It's absolutely crazy. I know what you mean, because I use it as well. I also use Native Instruments. That's absolutely crazy, and so and that's the reason why I chose to do lo-fi, because I wanted to get back to having a microphone, having cans, pots, footballs, balloons, whatever I can find, and make a track out of just using those sounds. You know, real analog sounds, sticking them through the microphone, processing them, and then putting them back into a track. And you know, that's like I say, that's the challenge.
That gives to the music a little bit of extra, like a life. That's how I can explain it. When I searched for your new project, LayZee, I checked it out on Spotify, and I was very much surprised at how amazing tracks you have, and the sound. It was like, oh my God! I listened, and I was surprised that the sound and the quality is really, really, really up in the high level. What do you think about this current generation? Like, you know, they are using a lot of plugins and less hardware. How do you see this as a producer and as an artist?
I don't judge that. You know, at the end of the day, it's about the end product. If the end product sounds good, right, it doesn't matter what you do to get there. You know, people like to teach just one way to do one thing, right? But there are more ways to get the same result, right? And I would rather something sound good than sound sterile, you know, kind of, I downloaded this from there and I put it in, and it sounds all right. You know, it's all about the mixing, right? And if you can get the end result, because the end result is what's going to count at the end of the day, right? Also thinking about a good song, good hooks, good vocals, good analog recordings, the mix, of course. That's got to be good, because that's got to, you know, when you get that on stage, it's got to pump. People's got to feel it. Doesn't matter whether it's the people's genre or not. You know, if it sounds good, it will catch people. I think a lot of kids today have got it. They've understood what that's all about. And I've heard some really, really fantastic demos. And I've been a part of some fantastic projects where, these kids put together some real good tracks. And quite a few of them don't even know, when I tell them, I want a bar, and they have no real kind of idea. They just know that it sounds good. And I appreciate that as well.
I really think that the current generation is thinking a little bit different than how we do. They are using the creative process of this oversaturated plugins and samples and stuff like that, it's kind of interesting in my opinion, because they can use so much stuff and they can still come up with something unique.
Because they don't spend so much time in actually putting musical input, playing a bass line or something like that. They make up for that in their creativity of making that track really interesting. That's what I love about the new generation. You can hear a song and it's like every part has something that you go, oh, whoa, how did you do that? Oh, wow, what? And I love that creativity. And I think, we're kind of, because we're old school, we're stuck in the old school ways of doing things, and we forget about the creativity. We just want it to be classical, correct. Yeah, that's the verse, that's the refrain, that's where that goes, that's the bridge. And as long as we've got that, we're happy. But today, the young kids, they'll go, okay, good, I've got my verse, everything's set up. How can I make it attractive? And so they'll put in little tricks, and you'll go, hey, let me play that back again. I didn't get that. What did he do there? And that's great. I love it.
I still love to hear some productions which actually doesn't sound that complex, but it has some parts, or maybe one part, but it's that catchy that you want to listen again and again, and just thinking like, how this guy did this sound, and it's crazy.
I think that's what it's all about. It's creativity. If you're going to sacrifice musical ability, then be creative. I don't see anything wrong with that at all.
So as an artist, over the last 30 years, you traveled all over the world. Which part of the world was your personal favorite?
If I do that, then everybody's going to kick me out of their country. I can't say that. I love everywhere I go. I get treated very nicely. I have a lot of fun with the people. So, I can't just pick out one. I can say the most enthusiastic countries, but the best, there is none. Everybody's been fantastic.
Do you have any favorite food from a specific zone?
Yes, I do. From the Russian area, there's a thing called manta, right? I don't know if you know. It's like a dumpling with meat in it. It's mostly lamb. I absolutely love it. Right, whenever I go to Ukraine or those areas where it's made, I've got to have it.
I always love to hear the people, because everybody has a lot of different favorite food, and some people prefer the Asian food, some people prefer the European food, and it's so different. Especially if you go in a place where the cultures is just mixed together, and you get something absolutely new.
That's what I like the most. When I went to Kazakhstan, I think I stayed there for a week. But I put on like a kilo because I was eating all the time.
How many times have you been in Romania?
I think about 10, 11 times. I can't remember the name of the city because I can't pronounce the cities. I've definitely been to Bucharest about 5 times. Cluj. Oh, there's so many small, great cities that I've been to. Yeah, I've been quite a few times.
How would you like to describe the audience in here?
Super enthusiastic. I was amazed that they knew so many songs. I thought, Coco Jumboo, everybody knows Coco Jumboo. They're not going to know this and they're not going to know that. So it's so much time on that. We'll do a mega mix so that, but the people were like singing with it. And when it changed to another song, they're like, oh, and then carried on singing to the next song. So I was like, wow, okay, fantastic. It's amazing.
Let's talk about a little bit of funny moments. Since I guess you have so much, because every artist has a funny moments of their touring or like live shows. Do you have anything what you are able to share with us?
Yeah, there are a few things. I've got a singer, and it's always I always have to tell her, have you been to the toilet yet? Because she gets very, very nervous sometimes. I actually forgot to tell her that we're going to be on in 5 minutes, and they cut it then to like 5 minutes. So we were on our way to the stage, and she just disappeared. she disappeared and went off to the toilet. And they started the intro, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether to go back and get her or tell them to stop. And I don't like telling them to stop when they started, because that kind of ruins the whole atmosphere. And I just said, okay, I'm going to, trust in God and wait. And she actually sang the intro from the toilet. So she sang the first part of the intro on the toilet. So we managed to do the show, and it was great and fantastic. But that was, for me, it was absolutely hilarious. From then she always paid attention to what was happening.
You're still doing music, and you are doing a really, really good quality and really nice music. Do you plan to release new albums or new singles on the future?
I intend on because I kind of had an album finished, right? But because of what's happened over the past 2 years, I decided let's wait until it's over, and then I'll do it. But in the meantime, I've decided, well, my singer has been waiting to do an album, and I think now is the time to kind of invest the time and do an album with her. So I'm hoping to do an album with her, and also release the rest of my album, because I've put out a few tracks from the album. So I might as well just release that album, maybe do a couple of new tracks, a couple of new collaborations, and release my album, and then release her album later. So definitely there's going to be some new music this year.
What is your biggest inspiration when you start to write music?
It depends on the track. I don't really like writing to the music that I've produced. What I do is I'll get a producer friend of mine and say, look, I'm looking for something special, and see what they come up with, because then for me, my energy is then only on writing the song. Right, and I think there's maybe about 5 or 6 songs that I've actually produced myself, done the whole thing, writing from the beginning to the end. But for me, I kind of let other people inspire me with the music.
Do you have any artists who would like to have a collaboration from the current generation?
I'm working with some younger artists right now. A young guy called Graziano Major. He's very, very young and fresh, but he has some awesome music. This guy is like putting out a track a week. He's so prolific with his music, and I've done one track with him, which I'm hoping maybe I could cooperate with him to get that on my album. But I'm working on him with a second track now, because I absolutely love his stuff. And there's been a few people also from the old school that I'm working with. I've done a track with Captain Jack, for example, who we also intend to collaborate with also this year on something kind of really old school but new school. So, I'm up for everything. I'm open for everything. And I really don't care who I work with, as long as it's good.
I'm really curious to hear your new stuff, and I'm definitely, it will be...
Me too.
I'm definitely thinking that will be a really good quality, because the ones that I heard on Spotify, I can tell you it's probably one of the best productions I heard over the last couple of times.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, I really love it. Like the quality, the production and everything together, it's just like, it's really good. It feels that it has emotions, the tracks.
Yeah.
It has analog, because it's definitely here and there, the analog sound. And
right.
The production quality is absolutely beautiful. So I totally love it.
All right, thanks for that. I mean, you've got a kind of, my producer, Jungle Boy, he's a London-based producer. We worked together on that one. We've exchanged a lot of stuff and exchanged a lot of the ideas. I actually wrote some of the songs with my niece, Typhina. She's never written a song before. And I don't know which song you've heard, whether you've heard Rock Your Body. Rock Your Body was one of the first songs Typhina ever wrote, right? So she basically wrote the hook and I did the rest. And it was like, I didn't even know she could write. She didn't know she could write. She just said, well, if you do it, I want to write something. So I said, okay, go on then. There was silence. I went away. I came back and said, look what we done. And it was just an amazing hook. I said, okay, good. We've got, we kind of created that song in a day. I had to go and, do my thing on it straight away. And she did a great job, fantastic job.
What kind of music do you listening when you are not producing music, just like a person?
I listen to a lot of old school fusion jazz, right? People are going to go, huh? That's old man music. Yeah, I listen to old man music because I think I also listen to a lot of soul as well. It feeds your soul. Old school music from the 70s, that kind of jazzy, funky kind of stuff, basically feeds your soul, and that's what I listen to. I if I want to get energized or I want to relax, that's what I listen to.
I'm actually curious to know where it comes to Coco Jumboo name.
It was a friend of ours that wrote that, and one of the production team, a guy called Reiner, he came up with Coco Jumboo. I said, dude, what are you talking about? And he explained it to me, and it made total sense. Coco is a girl's name, like Coco Chanel and Coco, you know what I mean? There's lots of Cocos around. And Jumbo or Jambo is Swahili for hello. So the song is really hello Coco. It's actually meeting a girl called Coco, and the song is about what I do with Coco.
This is so amazing. I mean, I never thought that this is the story behind of the track's name, and it's so crazy, but it's so creative and it's so unique. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, you got to thank Reiner for that, because I really would never have thought of it, right? And he just, when he started, because he plays the bass line is definitely, you can hear it's analog, right? And that's what he does. He plays bass, right? And when he came up with the bass line, I was like, well, I was totally blown away by it.
I still think that the track it's special even today, and it got so many remixes. Like if I go on YouTube or Spotify, there is like at least 1,000 remixes I can find.
Yes, there are.
Do you have any favorites?
There was one that was made last year summer. Oh, I can't remember the DJ's name, but I thought that was awesome. The only remix that I really rate when it comes to like the house mixes of the song, there's only two, and the other one was done on the original, part of the original. It was by Musti, the DJ from Horny, or the producer from Horny. His version, his house mix of it is you can't touch it.
Since we are talking, I realized that you are a very technical guy. You like to do the production and go deep in the stuff, which is it's pretty lovely. I mean, I always love to talk with people who is like going deep in the technical stuff and has a little bit more, and they put their own heart into music. That's something unique and has a really high value.
I'm kind of hands-on. When I started Mr. President, I left everything to everybody. We had a producer, we had a songwriting team, we had everybody, so I could just concentrate on being the artist or being a artist. And it was after I decided, okay, I've had enough of this, I want to do something else, something for me, that I realized, oh my gosh, I've got to be hands-on, right? And I kind of jumped in the deep end. I bought myself lots of equipment, put it in my house, and said, right, let's go. And that was a kind of deep dive. I didn't know much about music. I only kind of picked up what I saw our producer doing. I took it from there, and I really kind of worked 2 years getting to know what a studio was all about. And I got in it from the analog end, right? Because digital wasn't kind of the thing that back then. I was working with the software called Logic, and that was Logic 3, right? So anybody that knows Logic 3 knows what I'm talking about. There was no analog stuff back then, and so I went in in the deep end, learned basically everything that I know now, kind of trial and error. There was maybe one or two. I had a brilliant producer that taught me the rest and taught me a lot. A guy called Jan van der Toorn. He produced stuff for Papa Bear, for what else did he produce for? Fun Factory, Backstreet Boys, and he taught me so much. I'm deeply indebted to that guy. I mean, the guy is just awesome. I mean, he's a musical genius from what I'm concerned. He was really great, and he taught me a lot.
It's funny because I also started with Logic, but back in the days it called it Imagic, Logic Platinum.
Oh yeah,
did you
right.
remember that?
Yes. I went through all of that.
Yeah, so I used it till 2005 or 6. Then they switched it to Mac, and then I started to search after a new DAW, and I ended up using Ableton Live because it was fast and it was easy to use, and it has all the things what I needed.
I still stuck to Logic. For me, it just made sense. I knew where everything was. I knew you had to get whatever I needed, and if I didn't, then I knew what I needed to do it. So that's what I stuck to. I tried Ableton, but maybe I'm too stupid for it. I couldn't use it.
And let's get talk about, and I'm very curious to know, do you have any favorite electronic or traditional instrument?
I don't really play anything, right? I can play about a couple of chords on the ukulele, mess around with the keyboards. But when it comes to instruments that I use in a production, I cannot get around not using Nexus, because Nexus has got everything, right? Even if I'm doing a demo, I have to pick up on Nexus because, like I said, it's got everything. And then if I need something that sounds kind of authentic or analog, then I'll go to Native Instruments, because Native Instruments have got some really fantastic plugins and generators. It's just unbelievable. So basically, those two are my favorite.
I also love Nexus, but you have to try Avenger. That's actually is the same guys who did the Vengeance sample packs. They did this new plugin, and you have to try it. It's probably one of the best I've ever heard. It's like a combination of Serum and Nexus.
Okay, I've still got to get my head around Serum. I love what it does, but I got to get my head around it.
I love Serum. It's so amazing. You have so much stuff to do in it, and it's probably one of the best for sound design.
That's one of the things that kind of scared me about it, because it looked very complicated and very complex. And if you don't know what you're doing, then you can get lost in it and lose your creativity. So that's why I chose Nexus, because you can be, a creative straight away. You call it up, you choose a sound, and you dive straight into it, right? And like with things like Nexus, you've got to kind of turn a lot of knobs to get what you want, and then you kind of, oh, okay, now that I've got what I want, what did I want to do next? And so you kind of lose it. You kind of lose the workflow.
I just recently found something cool from Baby Audio, and I heavily recommend it to you. They have a retro delay plugin, which it makes everything sound a bit analog, and it's just absolutely cool.
Baby Audio, I've got to try that. I've got a subscription with them as well.
Even in this very oversaturated market, what we have with tons of plugins, tons of samples, there is still good stuff. Especially, as you said, on Native Instruments, it has so much amazing stuff. It's like impossible to mention all of the things they have.
Absolutely true. I'm kind of while we were in lockdown, I think I must have made about, I don't know, maybe 200 tracks, and that's why that's why I'm putting together this album for my singer, right? Because I just stood there and said, right, now I've got all these plugins and let's see what they do, right? And so I spent the time on just getting to know everything that I had, and a lot of the stuff I bought in like 2019, 2018, right? I was just getting to know them in 2020, so I can make lots of tracks in 2021. So it was an inspiring time, although we kind of were in lockdown, but it was a absolute fantastic creative time for me as well.
I've talked with many artists, and some of them had very not too inspiring moments when the lockdown happened, and some of them was like, okay, I'm going to work and I'm going to use the lockdown as an inspiration, and I produced and came up with new tracks. So I always love to hear this from artists.
I wouldn't say it was tough. It wasn't tough, really. I just say it is what it is. It was what it was, and I'm going to get on with it. I had 3 different projects going at the same. Planned 3 different projects. One of them was a lo-fi hip hop album for some friends of mine in the US. The other one was, like I said, the album for my singer, and the other one was kind of, just create background music for my brother's got a new business, so he needs kind of like background music. So I did that. So it was like a non-stop operation. It was the time was used wisely, I think.
How much do you think is important nowadays, the musical knowledge for the artists?
It depends. It depends on what part of the musical or music business you're involved in. I think it's good if a proper producer. I don't consider myself as a proper producer. A proper producer obviously has to have a musical theory, musical knowledge. He has to know chord progressions and all that kind of stuff, right? If you're going to be a studio engineer, yeah, you need to know that as well, but you also need to know the technical ways of doing things. You need to understand great mixing, what makes a mix work, what makes vocal works, how you structure harmony, where everything goes. And for the singer, I mean, he has to know, or they have to know their instrument, which is their voice or whatever they use. I'm a rapper background singer, so I understand rap, because rap is gone beyond rap now. It's you've got to think about melodies and flows right now, and rhythm, as well as all the rest of the things when you're doing rap. Funny, and then for an artist, you not only need to have your artistic credentials in order, you need to have your business hat on. So you have to understand also, when you write music or you create something, what you do with it afterwards, right? Where do you register it? Where do you do this and where do you do that? What's the laws? What's the restrictions? What can you do? You know, if I use this sample, what's going to happen? So all these things are also part of the music that, you know, a lot of the people don't actually see, but you need to know, right? You don't want to get yourself in any kind of problems, and you don't want to be taken advantage of. If I work together with a new artist or a fresh artist, I always try to help them with that part of the scenery, that they know exactly, I wrote this is how it goes, this, and do this and do the next thing, so that they kind of get an idea of the business. I think that's very important.
I'm actually think that nowadays, when somebody is like want to become an artist, it doesn't matter if it's a producer or a singer or whatever, it's really important to have a little bit of information to say for them, because there is so much things there is going on in the background. It's not just about the writing music and using samples, but social media and where to register, where did you release your music, and also you know, how to make money from the music you made, because that's also important. And some of the artists, when they hear all of this, they are a little bit scared, like, oh my God, I have to know 7 billion things in order to become an artist.
But really, it's like everything. You know, there's 20 million laws, right? But you only need the laws that's applicable to you, right? And that's how it is in the music business. A singer needs to know the laws that are going to help him or her when they sing in front of other people, when they sing in the studio, when their music goes on social media. That's what they're going to learn. All the rest of the stuff, that's, you know, leave that to the music lawyers. That's what they're there for.
You know, sometimes when I'm talking with a young talent, for example, an artist who is like a singer, they have a lot of passion to go to do the studio work. And when they are dragged into the world of the background, exactly, like the marketing and the laws and all of this, they're like scared, like, oh my God, what happens if I don't do this or don't do that? That's what I miss from some of the labels, that they don't mention this to artists, don't explain to the artists.
It's never been like that. That's why it's kind of, you know, when people say, yeah, I'll get ripped off and blah, 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 that's the reason why. My career actually started in the background first. I I worked in a record company, in an A&R position, a bit less than an A&R position. I was a label manager. So we had to know, right, what you need, you know, because we were going to be challenged by other record companies or, you know, what have you. So we needed to know the law, or the rules of the game. And, you know, so when I went into the music business, and when I came to the front, I actually was already equipped with all that. And I realized that studios, record companies, or mostly studios or labels, did not tell the artist any of these things. So I kind of made it my job that when I, you know, got out of the business and right, it's time to give back. The first thing that I did was sit my artists down and explain to them what we're actually doing in the studio, why we're doing it this way, what they need to watch out for if they go to another studio, and basically give them the basics and then tell them to research the rest.
How hard do you think that is to sign a track today to a label compared to the old days?
I think it's tough because you've got to give up so much. there is not so much money in the business. Before there was kind of a lot of money in the business. There's not so much money in the business right now, and it's oversaturated. So it's like, if you have an oversaturation and not enough money, then you basically, unless you know what you're doing, you're not going to make money. It's as simple as that.
Having a conversation with you, it's so refreshing because we exchanged ideas like the plugins and samples, and this idea you have it with the labels and all of this. It's such a different viewpoint, and I love it. And I love it because it's not like some older artist who's like, oh my God, I don't care the artist, and I don't care this, I don't share this, I don't share that. It's super. You're very super open-minded, and I really respect this.
Well, basically, I don't believe in this old style of being for myself. If we want a generation of kids coming up that are savvy, that understand the music, because that's the reason why there's no money in music. Everybody has closed themselves off, right? The record companies, the record business, the music business, they've neglected the digital era. They didn't take charge of it while the time was there, and for that reason, the whole industry suffers from it, and you will never get it back. You cannot get it back, and because of that, it doesn't mean that you have to lose great musicians or great kids coming up, right? You can still divert and say, okay, good, we're not going to make the thousands of euros or whatever, right? But there is still money to be made, and you have to direct them to that, right? And kids today they are so ingenious, right? We don't give them enough credit, right? They will always find a way. Right, they'll always find a new way to make money. And that's what I really appreciate with this new generation. They have so many new ideas and so many ways to make money. It's unbelievable.
I think we need it because it's changed so much the marketing over the last, for example, 10 or 15 years. You can't make the same amount of money from when you release a track and you have a vinyl or a CD, because not really it's going in the same way like back in the days. We have Spotify, and the kids is going to listen to Spotify, and the same with YouTube. And it's only the very, very hardcore fans is going to buy your stuff, the merchandise, or like the CDs or the vinyls, and it's definitely needs to find a way to make the income, because I think the last 2 years was very tough for every artist.
I think the only way back really is if music turns around and goes back the original way that it came. The recording industry is not as old as the music industry, let's put it this way. People always made music, but they played their music live, right? And there wasn't any such thing as recording. So if people wanted to hear that music from that band, they had to go and see that band. When the first recordings came around, the first recordings were not there to make money. The first recording was like a calling card. This is me, this is the music that I do, this is it, it's on a vinyl, you can buy it, right? The album was basically what the artists played at their live show. So the recording industry helped the live music industry. We've kind of lost it, and we have allowed the recording industry to take over from the live music industry. Now that it's imploded in itself, we have to now think about going back to that original concept of live music, and then just using an album or a single as a calling card. And the live music should be the thing.
And I think definitely we have to go back and to keep the old things, because all these online platforms are like cool because you can access anyone's music in a second. That's pretty nice, but still, when you have the CD and you have on your shelf or the vinyl, it has something like, okay, I bought that one. I actually gave something to the artist. I still own something from them.
And that's what it is. It's a lifestyle. It's become a lifestyle now. So, you'll find that the artists where people have their CDs in their shelf or collect their CDs, those are the artists that actually goes out and do their thing, do live shows, do live concerts, do world tours. You're not going to find it from, a little kid that's in a little box studio, putting beats together. That's not how it works. That's what the industry would like, right? Because then they have total control. But that's not how the live music industry works. And the live music industry should feed the recording industry and the record industry. So, there is a balance that's got to be found again. And I think we're on the way there, but it's going to take a long time.
I would love to talk with you even more. And I think we can keep this for hours and hours because
I know.
It's crazy. And I always love to talk with people with such an open mind and different thinking, like not, closed up and not sharing anything.
Right.
I have to close this interview. So I would like to ask you if you have any message to the people who's coming to the Retro Summer Festival 2022.
Okay, here's LayZee, aka Mr. President, and I cannot wait to see you guys at the Retro Festival in 2022 in Romania. I'm so much looking forward to it. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'm sure everybody's going to be coming out with a smile on their face. That's what I hope anyway, and I'm going to do my best to make sure that you do.
Thank you so much for the interview. It was a pleasure to have you in here, and I can't wait to see you live and to hear your new music.
Thank you for having me, number one. Thanks for all the great questions. You made me think today. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for that. Awesome. Thanks.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too, man. Bye.